decorating with tin cans are pretty budget friendly. Usually we recycle or either, throw them away into the garbage. And so I have these cans. They were like from beans or something like that, vegetables. And so I took off the labels, ran it through my dishwasher, and then now we're going to go ahead and work on the napkins. Now, the beautiful napkin came from Hobby Lobby in the Christmas section. And so this is a 3-ply napkin. And so it has a white back on the back. And I'm going to take off that one layer on the back. And if this is just a little tip that I picked up from a fellow creative. If that ply on the back gives you a hard time, get a piece of Scotch tape, put it on the edge of your finger, and then put it in the corner, and then you can take off the napkin just like that. I'm going to go ahead and cut it in half so that I can work with it a little bit easier. Now, I have an electric smooth edge can opener, and so that cuts it where it takes off the tops where I do not have any sharp edges. I know that there are also handheld ones that you can get from the grocery store, or I got my electric one from Amazon, and it is really a lifesaver, especially since I like to upcycle and reuse the cans for different projects. It really helps with having those smooth edges on the end so that I don't have any of the sharp edges. All right, so then for the napkin, I'm just Mod Podging it on there and just kind of working in sections so that I don't get any wrinkles. I do not want wrinkles for my little napkin. I just kind of Mod Podge the bottom as well as just flip it over into the inside, and then that looks all really nice and finished. While the Mod Podge is still wet, I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle on some glitter. I think this is the diamond glitter that I'm using, and it really just gives it that Christmas festive look for my cans. I want to give my cans a little bit of weight by adding some rocks in the bottom. Not too many, just enough to give it a little bit of weight so that so that it doesn't tump over too heavy. I pull out my jug of Aleene's tacky glue and then just put some glue in there, drop a couple of rocks in there. And so again, I just use this for weight. Then I'm going to go ahead and cut down some styrofoam. Now got this styrofoam from Amazon. You can find it in my Amazon storefront. I just cut down pieces of it to fit inside the cans. Then I'm going to go ahead and add some Excelsior. Now I got this brown Excelsior from Joann Craft Store, and I think it's the perfect addition for these cute gingerbread can creations because I just love the brown. Now I'm just using a variety of greenery. I got this greenery from Amazon. I also am using some greenery that I got from Hobby Lobby, as well as some berries and some of these branches that have the icicles on them, or that's kind of what I refer to them as. And so you can get those over at Hobby Lobby, as well as these cute little gingerbread pigs. Oh my goodness, I got 3 boys and 3 girls because I am going to have 6 cans. And guys, this is how a finished one looked. And also got this ribbon over at Hobby Lobby. Everything, I love Hobby Lobby. That is my favorite store. And for me personally, and I am just here to inspire you, to encourage you, just to give you ideas. I'm not sure what stores you love in your area, but if Hobby Lobby is not your store, then buy things at the stores that you like. And guys, isn't these cans turning out adorable? So I just stuck in some greenery as well as some berries, some of those iced branches, stuck in my little gingerbread. Now I did have to cut down the sticks of them because they were too long, and I just used my wire cutters for that. And then I'm just making a bow, and I'm going to use some green branches. They're almost like pipe cleaners. You can get them during the Christmas season. And so those work good to kind of tie those little bows and so that it can stick there in the styrofoam as well. And friends, these make great little gifts just for a friend, coworker, teachers. They also are great craft show or craft fair sellers, or just to do with the kids and that kind of thing. I hope that you are inspired. This is I just did this in a gingerbread theme. I also shared in the summer that I created some for 4th of July using some like red, white, and blue, kind of Uncle Sam gnomes. And I made some little can arrangement just like this, and they were just such a hit. Again, I give them away as gifts, some customer appreciation, for purchasing my wreaths and that kind of thing. And so I am so happy when I can upcycle something that is meant for the trash and turn it into something so
a
great. Ho ho Santa tin can arrangement turned out so cute. Now, guys, what I'm using here are some napkins from Hobby Lobby. The can I'm using is a tin can that was from vegetables, and it is the 20-ounce can. I just I took off the labels, ran it through my dishwasher to get it all clean. Now, I use a smooth edge electric can opener to get all of my tops off, and it leaves me with a really smooth edge so that I can do projects like this. So guys, what I'm doing is I'm using two different napkins, going to be making a pattern here. Again, they each came from Hobby Lobby, either in the like holiday different seasons, spring, or like the seasonal stuff, or Hobby Lobby has napkins all year round. All right, so what I did is just trim it down and then adding Mod Podge to the napkin. I didn't separate it or anything. Sometimes the napkins have several plies, and I do take off like the extra ply on the back, but these did not. I was able to adhere them to the can just using some Mod Podge. For the little Santa sign, I have these wood pieces that I've had on hand. They measure 2.5 by 3.5. I'm using desert turquoise acrylic paint and a baby white just to give it some color on that. Then I found this Santa image in Canva, and I just downloaded it as an image, and I printed it out at home on my home computer on rice paper, and I cut around it, and then I Mod Podge that to the little sign, but I did not like it. It was too transparent, too translucent. So I went to Plan B, and I made me an actual image in Canva by adding a slatted board in the color turquoise. And so then I printed that out just on regular copy paper and then cut out the square, and then I just Mod Podge that to the sign, and I like that much better. Just taking some stickles, just diamond stickles, stardust stickles, and then gold and black and red, and just adding some accents to my Santa just to make him pop and make him look a little bit raised and dimensional on the sign. While that little sign is drying, I'm going to work on my can. I add a few rocks in the bottom of my can just with some Aleene's tacky glue just to give it a little bit of weight. Then I'm going to fill it with styrofoam. Now, these blocks I get from Amazon in a big pack of those. Then I'm going to cover up that foam with some Excelsior, and then start adding in some picks. Now, I just have a bunch of different greenery, like frosted greenery branches. I got some candy canes. I have some white berries, some red and white pip berries. Those candy canes came from Dollar General. And then I also have some branches that I had taken off some greenery, and I'm like, that is too good to throw away. I could probably use that in an arrangement. And so that's what I'm using doing here in this arrangement here. So something that's meant for the trash, we can also recycle and add it to our arrangements to give a little bit of accent. So I'm just going to add these things in here and just really spruce it up and everything. I'm going to go ahead and make a bow, just a red and white striped bow using my Bowdabra and just a simple little 6 loop bow, and add that to the side of the can as well. The red and white pick came from Hobby Lobby. It had some big candies in them, but they were way too big for this little can arrangement. So I set those aside for another time and then just cut these down and stuck them here in the can arrangement, just looking so cute. Now, to finish up the sign, I just added some distress ink in one of my browns that I had in my stash. And then I'm going to attach it to this giant craft stick, but it was too wide, so I'm cutting it down at an angle so I can get that point on the end. And then what I'm going to do is wrap that in just some red and white fabric that I have, kind of looks like a candy cane. And so I just kind of ripped off about, not quite an inch, and then glued that and then wrapped it around that stick so that it would give me the color that I wanted. So then I'm just going to glue that sign to the top part of the stick, and then that's what I'm going to stick into the can. All right, so then here is the bow. I'm just using my Bowdabra. You can get these especially now at Hobby Lobby or Michael's, Joann's, maybe wherever ribbon is sold. You can get these there, or you can get them off of Amazon. But I like to quickly pull this out if I'm just making a small bow like this. I'm making 3 loops, 6 loops, 3 on each side, and I'm just using a green kind of pine pipe cleaner because that kind of gives me the what I need to stick it in the can. And so then for the tails, I just wrap those up or curl those up, and it kind of adds a nice little extra touch. It has been a few years since I have done anything with the Santa jean pocket. Now, I absolutely love creating little Santas and different characters on these blue jean pockets. If you do not know how to get off a pocket, I will leave a link to a video in the description of how you can cut off pockets. All right, so I have created little Santas like this in the past. I will have links for those also here on my channel. I've also done some gingerbread. I've done some snowmen as well as an Uncle Sam this past summer and some other characters. And I love creating just these cute little characters, and these pockets just make cute Christmas ornaments and gifts or door knob hangers, just little gifts for someone special. Now, the colors that I'm using for the Santa is Dixie Belle Barn Red. And then to get a little bit of texture, I'm using this Sea Spray by Dixie Belle. It's 100% natural texture additive. And what I'm doing is just adding a little bit to my Barn Red paint, stirring that up. And what it does is it gives it just a little bit of texture. And so that's what I'm going to add to my pocket, go around the edges. I'm leaving a little bit of space because that is where my Santa beard is going to go. While the Santa face is drying, I'm going to paint a border, and I'm using Dixie Belle's drop cloth and a flat brush, just painting all the way around the edges. I'm going to be adding some black to that for some striping. Then I'm going to add coral acrylic paint and a stencil brush just to give my Santa some cheeks. I like the more rectangle up and down cheeks. Now for the Santa beard, I use all-purpose caulking. You can get this anywhere, like in the I get mine from the Dollar Tree, and I just kind of put it on with a stick, kind of like I'm frosting a cupcake. And this one tube was almost finished, so that's why I just cut it and just stick my stick in there as I need to, so that I can get as much out of the tube as possible. Then I let this completely dry, and then to give it an aged look, I'm going to be adding some watered down brown paint to the Santa face to give it the antique or aged color. As I say, the beauty is in the details, and so I like to use my little detailing brushes to add some stripes in the cheeks, as well as the white of the eyes, as well as the eyelashes. If you're looking for some detailing brushes, I recommend these over at stencilsmith.com. My affiliate link will be in the description box below, and I absolutely love using these for my little, just adding the little details for my little characters. All right, so then you saw in the video there, I had went ahead and watered down some brown paint, and then I just brushed that on the Santa beard, and then I just took it off with a baby wipe so that it wasn't so dark. And I like it where it kind of gets in those nooks and crannies and makes it look really nice. Now I'm just going around and giving a little bit of highlight around the edge of the Santa, just to kind of blend that in where it's not so stark. Then for the Santa nose, I'm using a 1/2 inch furniture plug, and I just glue that there to the Santa face, and then I'll go and add some coral color of paint to his nose, add a little white swoosh to that as well, just to kind of make him sparkle. And then guys, for the little dimensional Santa's mustache, what I do is I have this yarn that I've had on hand for many years, because guys, I used to do these ornaments and sell them at my craft show. I would have a Christmas tree set up that was with me in my craft trailer, my craft show trailer, and I would just hang them on the tree, and people would buy them for different gifts, for coworkers, sisters, teachers' gifts, for their own kids, all that kind of thing. And so I sold many of these jean pockets over the years, and blue jeans never go out of style. And so my purpose here is to encourage you, to inspire you, to share, and also to entertain you. All right, so then here for the little beard, what I do is I wrap it around my fingers 4 or 5 times. I tie it off in the middle, and then I'm using my cutter bee scissors, and then I go through, cut off the loops, then I trim that little beard, kind of cut off the fuzzies and that kind of thing, and then I just glue it there to the center of his little face. Then for added interest, I'm just taking some white puffy paint and just going around the pocket just to give it a little bit more interest. And these are adorable with a homespun ribbon, jute, or any kind of other ribbon, just like I did here on these Santa pockets. I also added some jingle bells and some rusty snowflakes and rusty heart to the gingerbread and the snowman. So just sharing ideas, and I hope that you're inspired. To start my Santa bottles, I'm starting with some clear bottles. Now, regular beer bottles will work, or any kind of wine bottles. I've done all of those before too, but these are just clear bottles. My son drinks root beer out of them, and then also my wine coolers. And I don't know, they're just really too good to throw away. If you can recreate something and upcycle something, if you're not going to, of course, recycle it. Anyway, so what I'm doing is, guys, I am putting on a coat of chalk paint, and what I did to give it a little bit of texture is I just took some regular baking soda out of my kitchen, and I just mixed it in with my acrylic paint, and so then I'm just giving it a coat of that. Now I choose to, when I'm painting bottles or something like that, chalk paint does seem to adhere a lot better than just regular acrylic paint. You'll need to have some kind of primer or something like that. But chalk paint adheres very well. And I wanted more of a texture to my paint. So what I did is I just mixed some baking soda in with the paint, on the chalk paint. I painted my bottles a coat of plaster first, just to give it like an undercoat. And then all I needed was one coat of the red mixed with the baking soda, just to give it a little bit of a thicker texture. And I like that for my painted projects, especially on glass. I usually paint the bottom first, let that dry, and then paint the top. All right, so now I'm using medium flesh acrylic paint and then a flat paintbrush, and then just kind of eyeballing a circle. This is going to be my Santa face. And so usually one coat does well if I give it a pretty good coverage. And then I just am going to start the beard. Now I like to use the caulk from the Dollar Tree, or you can get it from, any home improvement store, Walmart, that kind of thing. But I just pick it up at Dollar Tree. And then I just kind of, just start putting it on, kind of like, you are going to decorate a cupcake or a cake or something like that. Just kind of put that on. And then I just use a little stick, kind of spread it around, just kind of like you're frosting a cupcake. And I go down a little bit more at the bottom, kind of like where the beard would be. And then also I do just some little eyebrows, just give a couple of, just kind of above like where the little eyes would go. And then that is going to be really cute. Now I let this dry completely. It does take several hours. I usually just let it dry overnight so I don't risk putting my fingers in it and messing it up. All right, so then now I'm just taking a stencil brush and some coral color paint and just stippling on some cheeks. Then I will go back and add just some eyes. Now I like the more almond shaped eyes. If you've been following me for a while, you know that is the type of eyes that I like, but you can draw eyes several different ways. So what I was showing first is I'm going to be putting a little wood plug in for the nose, but so I was just trying to see my position. And then once those are all dry, then what I do is I am going to add some distressing, and I just take some milk chocolate acrylic paint and then some water, and I'm just mix it in just a little cup, and to get the thickness that I like. Now how I choose to distress, my method is different than other people's, but what I do here is I am just I don't want it to be so white, so I am just kind of stippling it on, and I kind of like made a stain is what I did. And so then I just take a tissue or a baby wipe just to, dab off the excess, but I like the way that it looks. See, here is the white, and then the one with the distressing. I like that a lot better. And then once I do that, then I just go back and add some paint, some black paint in for the eyes. I don't know, this is just my process of how I do it, kind of the order that I do it. And so I just, filled it in with the black paint. Then using my little detailing brush, the one that has been with me for many, many years, I just go and make some eyelashes. And then I just use that same detailing brush and add some of the whimsical features just with some white paint in my little detailing brush, just to add some lines on the cheeks. I like that look like that. And then what we're going to do now is add the white of the eyes. Just depending on where you are, how you put the white in the eyes depends on how Santa's looking. Now I like to use these 3/8 inch wood plugs that I get from Hobby Lobby for my Santa bottles. So those are kind of the size that I like to use for that. So then I just glue those wood plugs there, and then I take some of that coral paint and just dab some of that on so that it gives him a rosy nose. And then I'm going to go ahead and add some little white swoosh to his nose so that, just kind of give him a little swooshy nose. And then I'm going to add some splatter paint. And I was making several of these Santa bottles at one time because I have going to be using them for different things. And so I'm just adding the paint splatter black, and then I go back and add the paint splatter white. And then for my Santa beard, I'm using this glitter paint. It's diamond. I just have the smaller tube of it. And I just go and just kind of smear a little bit of that on the Santa beard because I like that little shimmer. And I know it just doesn't show up too good on camera, but yes, it's there. For my Santa's beard, I'm using this yarn. Now, I've had this particular skein for several years, but the closest that I can find is this homespun yarn over at Michael's. Okay, so to make my Santa beard, depending on how big, how big the face is, will depend on how many times I wrap the yarn around my fingers. But for these Santa bottles, what I'm doing is wrapping them around 3 or 4 times. Then I cut off a little piece and then I tie it in the middle. Then I'm using my cutter bee scissors. They're just little short scissors like this. And you can find these in the craft store or you can find them on Amazon. And the reason I mention that is because I do get questions about where you can find those little cutter bee scissors. Anyway, so then I just go through and I go through and cut the loops apart, and then I trim off the beard just to, my liking, so it's not so thick. And then I just hot glue it there right underneath the nose. And then I'll take my scissors and just trim off any fuzzies that may, or little stragglers that I, don't like for each individual beard. Each one, it's its own creation and turns out a little bit different. For his hat, I could not find any socks that I liked at the time that I was going to be doing this video. So I decided to paint my own. So what I have here are just some white socks that I got from the Dollar Tree, and then I brought them home and I just made an instant coffee stain just to coffee stain them. And how I do that is just, put a bowl of water and then I just sprinkle in some instant coffee to the darkness that I like. And then I just soak them for a little bit until I get the the stain that I like, and then I let them dry, and then they're ready to go to paint on. So I'm choosing to paint on these because I couldn't find any striped socks. And so I'm going to show you here how you can create your own just with some paint. Now, guys, I am just using a red acrylic paint, but right here I'm showing you can also use fabric paint. And the reason that I'm showing you both of those, because if you use the fabric paint, it's a little bit more soft on the fabric versus, just the acrylic paint. Sometimes when you paint on it, it makes a little hard on it. So what you can do if you don't want your paint to be hard, then you'll need something like a gloss medium or acrylic medium rather, that you can just get anywhere paint is sold. It's usually just something that you mix parts into, like the same part into it, and it doesn't change the color or anything of the acrylic paint, but what it does is that when you paint it on the fabric, it gives it a softness that you have, so that you don't have that hard paint on it. But these are just going to be Santa hats, and they're just fine. They're really just fine. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I am just going to be putting this on my bottle, and I just kind of, play around with it to get the placement that I like. I also add some polyfill, some stuffing in it just to, give it a little bit of thickness. So I just kind of play around with it, glue it as I go along, kind of scrunch it up, and just, make my little Santa bottles look really cute. Then I just pulled out some cheesecloth that I also coffee stained. I got this cheesecloth at Walmart in the canning section. And so I just coffee stained that and let that dry so that I would have it for my little primitive country crafts, just like this. I also have some of that red and green homespun that I love so much. And again, you can get homespun at different places like Hobby Lobby, Walmart, also JubileeFabric.com is another place that you can get some wonderful fabric. All right, so then now I'm just continuing to start adding the embellishments to my little Santa hat. And guys, what I usually do is I usually cut the end of the sock. I'll show you that here real quick. What I do is I just take my little pinking shears and I just make some slits in it just to kind of give it like the I don't know, fuzzy look, I guess, on the end. And so at this point I had forgotten to do that, but I go back later and do that. So what I'm doing is this: I have these 32mm jingle bells that I picked up from Hobby Lobby, and I have that same brown wire from Michael's that I have been using. It is kind of a little rusty looking to me. It's brown, but it can pass for a rusty wire. And so I just use my little wire curling tool to add the curls on the ends, and then I just take strips of that homespun as well as some cheesecloth, tie that on the end, and just make it look just so primitive country cute. I just love that so much. And so that pink little paddle that you see up there in the right corner, I got questions about that the last time that I used it, but that is a mask tool that you can find at Dollar Tree or anywhere any kind of makeup is sold. You can get those. They're little silicone tools, and they're used to put makeup on or mask or whatever. And so we just use them for when we hot glue so that we don't burn our fingers, and they just work great. So then I'll just continue to go around and just, kind of scrunch and glue and scrunch and glue. And then for some more embellishments, I'm using another one of those grungy candy canes. Well, actually, it is a pipe cleaner. They were red and white, and then I grunged them up on a recent video, that you can see how I do that. And so I just use them for little embellishments like this. So I wanted some a little bit smaller. So what I did is I cut them apart, and then because they were a little flimsy, so what I did is I just took my Stiffen Quick and just sprayed them so that they would be a little bit stiffer. And so then for embellishments for the top of my Santa hat, or the side of my Santa hat rather, I'm just using some pip berries that I got from Hobby Lobby, and then some greenery, and just kind of tying all of that in, just gluing everything with some hot glue, making sure that everything is down. And then also I add just a little just some jewelry cording that I get from the jewelry section, and I just just make just a little regular bow. I just really like all the little details. Guys, y'all hear me say that all of the time. The beauty is in the details. For a little bit more pizzazz for my Santa, of course, this is totally optional, but I am choosing to use a little bit of glitter on the hat. And so I don't want it to get on my Santa face. So what I'm doing is just taking a paper towel and just covering that up. And then I take my Craft Bond. It's just Elmer's adhesive spray, and then I just spray it, and then I just sprinkle on some little glitter. Now this glitter is diamond over from Hobby Lobby. Y'all know my favorite store has all my favorite things. And so then I just spray the front, then I spray the back. Again, this is totally optional, but at Christmas time we always love a little